Jamie, Kern, Lima. The horror. Hello, I'm hgtudor. Occasional This One's Wife collaborator, Jamie Three Names, is at it again. Yes, it's more horror from Buzz Lightyear's sister as she invades your consciousness to spout, well, you're going to find out. But is she going to sound like she's auditioning for The Exorcist, talking like this, or did she be smoking 40 Rothmans a day?
Or is she going to talk in her little helium up here, silly little child voice?
Who knows? Who cares? Well, evidently we do a little bit because we're going to watch it and find out what utter errant, asinine nonsense this woman is going to spout, and then try and make sense of it. So gird your loins, prepare for your ears to bleed, as here comes Jamie Three Names.
The truth is, it's way easier to stay in our comfort zone. It's way easier to make the circle around us happy and comfy and not fearful. It's way easy, and I think that chips away at our soul when we do that. I think every person knows, I think we know deep down inside if we're created for more and we're supposed to give more, if we have more inside of us to give or to serve or to love or to live. I think we all know that deep down inside, and I think that if we don't do something about it, I think it chips away at our soul, and I think we end up literally talking ourselves out of our own truth and literally never becoming the person we're born to be. I know that sounds dramatic, but I think it's true. And I think that I think that's the easy route. So I think the first thing is you have to want to.
What in the name of all that is sacred was that? This woman is incapable of talking in logical, constructed sentences that actually mean something. It must be a nightmare being married to her. What would you like for dinner, darling? Announces the husband, deciding that he's going to cook tonight, and then he's subjected to 2 minutes of some kind of diatribe that's been lifted from a self-help book that has been strained through a bullshitometer before being regurgitated as word salad. He must be sat there, bashing his head against the kitchen counter thinking, somebody make her stop. Originally she could go all night and that's why I wanted her. And also, she was quite good at cooking, but now she's decided that she's got a voice. I have to be subjected to this. She doesn't even talk like that in real life. Why is she doing this? The poor man must be beside himself. What we have is, well, what to make of it, that she sits there on her podcast, and what's entertaining that throughout you heard the occasional muffled murmur from whoever it was that she was talking to. I'm assuming we didn't see them because they were strapped into the chair looking like Alex from A Clockwork Orange, that the individual had his hands bound to the arms of the chair so he couldn't put them over his ears, that his eyes were forced open with clamps, and that he had gaffer tape across his mouth so he couldn't interject. All he could do was go, which he was basically saying, will you fucking shut up? I can't take any more of this word salad. And word salad it is. For she tells us, the truth is, it's way easier to stay in our comfort zone. It's way easier to make the circle around us happy. Hang on a second. You're making shapes happy? Squares? Ecstatic? Triangles? Horny? How does that work? She's telling us it's making it comfy and not fearful. It's way easy, and I think that chips away at our soul when we do that. I think every person knows, like I think I know deep down inside, if we've created for more and we're to give, if we have more inside of us to give or to serve or to love or to live, I think we all know that deep down inside, and I think that if we don't do something about it, I think it chips away at our soul. And we end up literally talking ourselves out of our own truth. What? We talk ourselves out of our own truth. What does that even mean? Does this woman sit there and listen to what she spouts? Clearly she does not. And that is typical of certain verbose narcissists that engage in spilling this nonsense. They think what they say is of import, that is crucial, that is fascinating. Unfortunately, because, and I'm still at a loss as to how this happened, but because this woman came up with a makeup idea, which apparently she was able to flog to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion. She didn't trouser all of that. She had investors, of course. But even so, it's made her wealthy. How the fuck did she manage to do this? They must have gagged her when they were going into the offering meetings in respect of all of this. They say, right, Buzzy's sister, sit there, sit down, stay quiet, shut the fuck up. No, you're not allowed to say anything. But I want to... No, you're not allowed to talk. If you open your mouth, this deal will be over. The L'Oreal executives, they'll walk. They'll decide we're not putting money into somebody that talks like an helium-addled child. No, you're not doing your exorcist voice instead. You're not going down the other side of things. You're not talking. They must have had to have gagged her. They must have ensured that every meeting with the lawyers and the financiers and the bean counters must have been taken with lashings of gaffer tape to keep her silent. Because if she started spouting this kind of drivel in those meetings, they must have thought, do you know what? I'd much rather go and jump out of the window than listen to this. We're not proceeding with it. But this is typical of the self-absorbed narcissist that engages in this utter twat waffle, the ear pollution that's spouted, and that if you were to ask her, what did you actually say? You'd be met with a rather confused look, because she thinks it makes perfect sense. But it's this meaningless claptrap. Now, there are others that spout this who aren't narcissists. They just fall into this trap of thinking that bunging a load of words together and emphasizing certain words makes you sound like you know what you're talking about and you're being insightful and meaningful. But here, this is a device that's clearly sent her guest into a comatose state where he's just about clinging on with the muffled murmurs of protestation. And she continues, you're never becoming the person we're born to be. I know that sounds dramatic, but I think it's true. And I think that what I think, that's the easy route. So I think the first thing is you have to want to. Thanks for that. And then at the end, we're implored to share this with someone who needs this today. Well, the only people that might need it would be somebody who needs some heavy anesthetic prior to undergoing some substantial surgery, because the only effect that the horror of listening to Jamie Three Names is going to achieve is for you to close down and go into a comatose state. You're going to want to shrink away from this kind of nonsense. But once again, we have an individual that, because she's made some money and she's been given a mic, thinks that what she has to tell us is important, that she thinks that her insight is insightful, when in actual fact, all it tells us is that it is a self-absorbed claptrap of a self-absorbed narcissist that doesn't understand the way that people actually think and believes in a grandiose way, just like this one's wife does, that if she spouts it, it must be brilliant, that if it comes out of her cake hole, then people will want to hear it. She subscribes to the same form of word salad as that doled out by this one's wife. It must be a sort of Californian version that has been installed in their operating systems. But once again, Kern Lima rather, I can't even get her name right, I'll just keep calling her Jamie Three Names, that's much more apt, demonstrates the horror of what comes out of her mouth. Meaningless, nonsense, utter tripe that tells you nothing, and yet she believes she's telling you everything. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for watching.